Megan Fox.
And Megan Fox has the story.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox writes at PJ Media.
Eat Tucker.
And that was your last.
Damn it, man. I cried for 2 days.
Megan, thank you very much for that.
So, I can explain the bed thing.
If you don't show up and vote, up your ass. I don't care if you're in the hospital. Crawl to the stake. Crawl there.
It's like Jesus going into the temple. He's like, I got a whip. Get out! Get out! The lovely and wonderful Megan Fox. Not that one.
Not that one. Not the weird one that drinks blood in his toe thumb.
Megan Fox.
Megan. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
She's the devil.
Megan Fox. Megan Fox.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You've never met a like me. You want to tangle? You want to go? Holy sh!
Too much cussing on this. I guess we didn't bleep it, so we got to turn it off. But it's
You pissed off the wrong woman.
oh my God, I have been assaulted, but Megan Fox runs wild on you, brother.
She's the devil.
Not for publication.
The story.
I'm Megan Fox. Thank you. Cheers.
Well. Whoops, I forgot to take that off my thing. And now, hold on a second. I boomered it. All right. Never mind. Welcome to the show. It is Tappy Dr. Corcoran Day. The locals chat made this for me. Isn't it funny? Good morning, everybody. How are you? Wow, there were like 500 of you waiting for this stream already, and now there are 672 of you here. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure. And if you like the channel, subscribe. If you don't like it, well, then don't. We're not here to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. I'm a big believer in informed consent, which is one of the things we're going to talk to Dr. Corcoran about today, and the state of our medical community, the state of our medical care. And welcome to all of you who have never been here before. My name is Megan Fox. I am an investigative journalist and author. I work at pjmedia.com, where I have covered a lot of this case. I have written a lot of articles throughout the case. And sorry, I was a little late. I was doing my hair. I'm not real thrilled with it today. But I covered a lot of articles on the case. I've also written a couple of books that you might be interested in on Amazon. You can find them. Believe Evidence, The Death of Due Process from Salome to #MeToo. Goes over all of the reasons why the hashtag Believe Women is not a great idea when it comes to false allegations. But it is funny and kind of interesting to this trial. How come the media is all gung-ho about believing women, but none of them at Court TV or Law and Crime wanted to believe Maya? And Maya gave us absolutely no reason not to believe her. In fact, I think most of us found her very credible. So we should ask the twat waffles over at Court TV why they don't agree. I also wrote this book called Shut Up, the bizarre war that one public library waged against the First Amendment. And this is about using the Freedom of Information Act against public bodies that violate your rights. As some of you may know, I just successfully sued Wauwatosa School Board District for violating my First Amendment rights and cutting off my public comment. And this book was about a public library in Orland Park, Illinois, that refused to stop letting weirdos watch porn in front of kids at the library. It's a great book if you want to know how to fight government agencies. I've been doing it for many, many years. And some of you wonder, why are you in this LawTube community? Why do you belong here? Well, for one, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not in LawTube. I'm LawTube adjacent. I've been covering trials and court cases as a journalist for many years, around 20. Family court in particular. I've written at least a 30-part series on court corruption in Missouri, which you can find on pjmedia.com. And I've worked with families very, very closely. I have walked with them through from the moment CPS contacts them to the moment that they either get their parental rights terminated, which happens more than I would like, or they get their children back. I've worked with people all over this country who have gone through medical kidnappings, like, certain people. You might be familiar with the Justina Pelletieri case, or Rachel Bruno's case, or the one that I've worked really closely with, Cynthia Absug's case, in that case, I was with her from the beginning all the way through the end, including being in court with her. And I do have an understanding, especially from a journalistic point of view, of court cases and what happens in our justice system and why our justice system needs a lot of oversight and cameras. And I've been a very big advocate for cameras in the courtroom. And I think that one of the reasons why cameras in the courtroom are so important is the media shows us every single time. They show us every time that what is happening in the courtroom is not what they report to us. If we didn't watch this trial, right? If we didn't watch Maya Kowalski's trial versus Johns Hopkins All Prisoners Hospital, we would not have known all of the bad things that Jay Hatch did. We wouldn't have known about the 7th floor coven. We wouldn't have known about the Munchie Bunch, because what were they busy reporting on over there at Court TV? Well, they were reporting on the size of Maya's homecoming dress. Yeah, that's right. They were reporting that a teen girl had no business being at homecoming because she has a chronic pain disorder. That's the level of interest that Court TV and the mainstream media has in cases like this. If you were with me through the Johnny Depp trial, you saw the same thing. You saw Kat Tenbarge misreporting the facts of the case and telling people that that Amber Heard was a victim of abuse, when we learned in the courtroom just the opposite. We learned that Johnny was the victim of abuse. And so that's why it's important that we have cameras in the courtroom, so that the public, you, can see it unfiltered through the media lens. I definitely tell you I have an opinion. I said from the beginning of this case that I was 100% biased against the state, as I usually am. 100% biased against the state and DCF, because their organization is so corrupt, and the hospitals that collude with them. This is a playbook. What they did to Maya Kowalski is part of the playbook that I've seen them do to other people. Drake Pardo, Justina Pelletieri, Cynthia Absug, Rachel Bruno, and I could go on and on. There are more cases than that. I have written about several of them. In fact, I broke a case in Chicago at one of the big hospitals there, where they were colluding behind the scenes to inject a baby forcibly with vaccines that, under the law, the parents had the right to refuse, and did refuse. And they called the state unlawfully on the parents for refusing the vaccines because they didn't want to do it in the first day of birth, which is their right under Illinois law. And it didn't matter. That was a huge case, and they have They were wronged terribly. Their rights were violated in that hospital. This is a problem across the country. This is not a one-off. It's not a rare event. In fact, my inbox is full. I have a call tonight at 5:30 with another family that this is happening to, who reached out to me just yesterday to say, we've been scared to come forward to the press until now, until Maya Kowalski's verdict came through. And now that it has, we're ready to talk. And I hope that that happens. So something I didn't get to say on the Ricada show the other night that I wanted to bring up, but I was not allowed to do because there were louder voices screaming over me. And it just didn't seem that anyone was willing to listen to what I had to say. But there is a recent case in Pennsylvania right now that many of you may not be aware of. I'm going to bring it up, my writing on this case, because this is huge. One of the first weeks that Maya Kowalski was in trial, this story broke, and it didn't get national coverage except for my coverage. It only got local coverage. To this day, there is no one covering this story, and I'm going to dig into it now that I have some more time. I just wanted to bring it to your attention, though, because many of you who are new here may not have heard about it. But let me show you what a systemic problem this actually is with child abuse doctors overstepping their authority and bringing tyranny onto people through doctors and hospitals. It's sickening and scary. I'm just looking for the article here. Give me a second. Here we go. All right, let's share this. By the way, if you're just getting here, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy the channel. You want to know more about the type of coverage that I bring here. This is my specialty. This is the issue that I've been writing about for many years. Over 70 families say they lost children to false Munchausen by proxy allegations levied by one doctor, and also false child abuse. They weren't all Munchausen, but many of them were. Lehigh County, Pennsylvania is on fire right now with the outrage of at least 70 families who are on a mission to have Dr. Deborah Esernio Jensen, a child abuse pediatrician, fired from Lehigh Valley Health Network and hopefully brought up on criminal charges. The families allege that Dr. Jensen diagnosed most of them with the controversial Munchausen syndrome by proxy and accused them of child abuse when they brought their children to LVHN for various reasons. These families have been flooding different commissioners' meetings, holding press conferences, and protesting since the beginning of the month of October. Their stories are outrageous. PJ Media has been covering stories like these all over the country for years. Are the floodgates finally opening? Local Allentown media seems to be on the case for once, unlike the reticent St. Louis press that kept the Missouri core corruption scandal under wraps, though they were fully informed. The Pennsylvania parents spoke out at an October Board of Commissioners meeting last week. My children, my husband, and myself are victims of the cruel practices that seem to follow Dr. Deborah Jensen everywhere she goes, said one mother to a packed room. The trauma, the pain, the agony of having your child ripped from your arms and taken away from you, all while being wrongly and falsely accused, is indescribable. On Deborah Jensen's word, without ever having met me, turned my life into a living, breathing nightmare. And it's a nightmare that never ends. We can't hear a car door close outside my home without jumping. We freeze at any knock at our front door, fearing the police are behind when it's opened. I remind you that this is happening in America, the land of the free. In 2020, a mother who attends our support group reached out to me and told me that her child was taken from her. She was being accused of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I was in shock. I knew for a fact that this woman was innocent and that her child was in fact sick, she said. I really thought things would be resolved quickly, but I was extremely wrong. Dr. Corcoran is going to be with us in about 10 minutes, but I want to just play this video that I made so you can see the depth of the problem that we are facing. If this is happening in one hospital, well, now two that we know of, Johns Hopkins, all children's, how many other hospitals is it happening in?
Well, look what I found.
Because just like so many others that have stood and spoke before you, my family, my children, my husband, myself are victims of the cruel practices that seem to follow Dr. Deborah Jensen everywhere she goes. The trauma, the pain, the agony of having your child ripped from your arms and taken away from you, all while being wrongly and falsely accused, is indescribable. Deborah Jensen's word, without ever having met me, my life, my family's life, turned into a living, breathing nightmare. And it's a nightmare that never ends. We can't hear a car door close outside my home without jumping. We freeze at any knock at our front door, fearing the police are behind it when it's opened. We find ourselves clutching onto our boys and checking on them constantly, just to make sure that they are really still there with us, even if we know they're totally safe. How long will families need to be torn apart and victimized by Deborah Jensen? How long will she be allowed to traumatize and hurt innocent people? This nightmare needs to come to an end, and everyone needs to open their eyes, their ears, their hearts. What if that was your child, your life, your everyday everything torn apart so quickly? As for us, the parents, the children who are taken, the families torn apart, we aren't going anywhere. This needs to come to an end. And the nightmare that is Dr. Jensen needs to be stopped. So thank you for your time, and thank you for that update. But for right now, they're just words. No real action has been taken. Do better.
I am sick with a rare genetic disease and am no stranger to false allegations. Although I have never been medically kidnapped, a doctor at a different hospital accused me of faking my illness close to a decade ago. Although that doctor was proven wrong fairly quickly, the weeks surrounding that false allegation were extremely traumatic and some of the worst weeks of my life. What I experienced is only one small fraction of what these families here have gone through. Since 2016, I have been running a support group in the Lehigh Valley for those affected by the same genetic disorder I have. In 2020, a mother who attends our support group reached out to me and told me her child was taken from her. She was being accused of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I was in shock. I knew for a fact that this mother was innocent and that her child was in fact sick. I thought the accusing doctor must have made a mistake since this child's medical history was so complex. I really thought things would be resolved quickly and since the family was innocent. I was extremely wrong. A few months later, another local family with the same genetic disorder was falsely accused of Munchausen syndrome by proxy by the same doctor, Deborah Asernio Jensen. I was in complete disbelief. I started researching this doctor and found out about her criminal history in New York and Florida.
69 News reporter Blakely McHugh looked into that doctor's history and did find evidence of overturned diagnoses. She also found that the vast majority of child abuse reports in Pennsylvania do get dismissed for one reason or another. Here's Blakely with part 3.
There's families out there that are completely destroyed over these kinds of allegations.
But complaints about Dr. Jensen's alleged over-reporting date back to her time as a pediatrician in New York. In a 2009 case, court records show she diagnosed an infant with shaken baby syndrome. When the diagnosis was contested in court, 3 out of the 4 experts agreed that the child suffered some form of meningitis. Dr. Jensen was the only doctor who testified it was shaken baby syndrome. In 2010, Dr. Jensen saw a child who stopped breathing and also attributed it to shaken baby syndrome. That child died and his brother was taken from the home for nearly 3 months over the child abuse claims. A final autopsy concluded the baby's death was caused by a rare heart defect, not by the parents. And in another case in 2012, Dr. Jensen's claims of child abuse were dismissed, with the judge saying, quote, Dr. Jensen was clearly mistaken in her diagnosis. Further adding, quote, it is tragic that a medical misdiagnosis and an inappropriate rush to judgment resulted in these loving, caring, dedicated parents being separated from their sickly child. After New York, Jensen was employed by the University of Florida and worked with the child protection team in the state. During her time there, she was the subject of multiple complaints, at least one of them over her findings of possible abuse. Jensen was later reassigned to a non-CPT position in January of 2014. She then made her way to LVH in August of 2014, working in general pediatrics with an emphasis in child protective medicine.
We asked the hospital if they had any plans to look into these claims. They said, quote, LVHN evaluates and re-evaluates clinical cases and will continue to do so as appropriate. They also said the judicial system and child protective services make the final decision in these cases.
In other words, it's not their fault and they will not take responsibility for it. And in fact, Dr. Deborah Jensen is still employed at that hospital, if you can believe it. Over 80 families, you guys, 80 families have come forward about this child abuse doctor. How many families does it take? How many does it take before somebody says, hey, what's going on here? And I think this is part of what I wanted to get into on the stream, where I wasn't allowed to do that. I wanted to get into the massive problem that is going on in this country with hospitals colluding with DCF, and instead of doing no harm, they are investigating first. They are accusing first. They are not doing their job. They are not upholding a standard of care, and instead are going after parents when they can't make a diagnosis. And I think a lot of this is about ego and about having to be right and wanting to be right, and not being able to accept that they may not know the answer. You know, I want a doctor to be able, when I take my kid to the doctor, if I have a medically complex kid or if I have a medical problem, I want them to be comfortable to say, you know, we really don't know. We don't know. And we're going to do our best to try and help you, but we don't know. So maybe we should get somebody else's opinion instead of, you must be causing it. It's all in your head. Telling women, especially, that it's all in your head. This has been going on for a very long time. I don't know if you guys know about the diagnosis of hysteria that was all the rage from like the 1800s through like 1970 something. But women are often accused of not, they're often not believed when it comes to medical issues. And my own mother, it happened to her. She has chronic fatigue or Epstein-Barr syndrome. It was very unknown at the time when she had it. And she went to many different doctors and they told her that she needed to go see a psychiatrist because it was all in her head. Well, 10 years later, after she had to go and help herself, you know, figure out how to help herself, there was finally an answer. But what happens to those doctors who told you that it was all in your head? Do they ever have a consequence for not just admitting that maybe they don't know everything? Maybe they don't know it all. So this is a reminder for all of us that maybe it's okay to say we're wrong. It's okay to say, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I don't know everything. But especially in the field of medicine, it's becoming more and more important to find people who will admit when they are wrong or admit when they don't know something. All right, if you have not joined me on meganfox.locals.com, you're really missing out because that's where all the great memes from this trial have been. And we have had so many great memes. meganfox.locals.com. Right now, promo code Maya will get you a free month when you sign up for monthly membership. We also watch movies there together. We watch documentaries. We do laundry together and watch TV. It's fun. And there's a live chat going on over there right now. How you doing, locals? I got you over here so I can see you today. Also, I got to pull up Rumble. Rumble, how you doing? I have good news, Rumble. It turns out that Rumble has a new studio, like StreamYard, and I'm going to be able to do the beta testing for it. They're just getting it together for me, so I'm not on it yet. But when I am on it, that means that I'm going to be able to pull up your comments on the stream. And I can't wait to do that because right now StreamYard doesn't allow me to do that. So let me get over to the Rumble and say hello. Hey guys, oops. I have to turn down my volume. I forgot to do that. So Rumble. Let me just pull up your rants and make sure that I have it. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go over the super chats because I've missed some. Got a frog in my throat today, of all days, right? All right, Lynn S., thanks for the $2 super chat, said, just wanted to say thanks for your trial coverage. Well, you're welcome. And there's lots of good places to see trial coverage of this case and of others. And I, for one, enjoy all the different coverage that's out there. Feminital says, Maggie looks stunning. Talk about some good hair. Love ya. Thank you. I wasn't real thrilled about my hair today. I felt rushed. The back is still a little wet. I was literally jumping in the shower at 10 o'clock, which is never a good sign if I have to be somewhere at 10:30. Sarah Adams says, thank you for holding your own against the men. Well, look, in my line of work, it's not unusual. You got to toughen up and it's fine. You know, I can take a whole lot of criticism and I do on a regular basis. I don't appreciate, though, the out of control yelling and screaming and name calling. I think is completely uncalled for. And I also think that it's the last sad attempt of someone who doesn't have an argument to just scream at you that they don't like you, you know? And I don't really know why I bring that out in some people. It appears to be spreading. But I will say I am pretty easy to talk to. I will have a conversation without throwing F-bombs around unless you throw them at me first, and then you're going to hear it. I think I handled it the only way I could. Jackie, thanks for watching from the UK. Hi from the UK. I appreciate that you're out there. I know I have a lot of people watching this trial from the UK, and one of the things that's great about that is that in the UK there are no cameras in the courtroom. And so I can imagine that this is our American system of having cameras in state court anyway, not federal, but state, must be a real interesting thing for people in the UK since they don't get to see their own court system. And I think that's a real shame because there's got to be transparency and justice. Justice cannot happen behind closed doors. So that's just something that we cannot have. All right, Sarah Adams. Whoops, there we go. Get rid of that. Sarah Adams, welcome to the Fox Den. Thanks for becoming a member. We did just recently hit 20,000 subs on YouTube, and I got to tell you, I'm having a live stream on Wednesday to celebrate 20,000 subs. It's going to be a live stream at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 till Nick, as I like to say. I'm inviting my friends to celebrate the 20,000 subscribers that we hit, this milestone I've been looking for a long time. Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be here with Nick Rekieta, Legal Vices, and Good Logic, among others, many others coming by, and we're having a roast. I have just put it out there since it's the popular and fun thing to do to scream at me for no reason or some reason or be angry at me. We might as well just get it all over with. So I've invited all my friends to come and tell me all the things they hate about me on Wednesday night for our 20,000 subs stream. So make sure that you get there because it's going to be fun. It's going to be lit. And then after that, I'm going on the Nick Rekieta show on Wednesday night with Robert Barnes. We're going to talk about Wauwatosa and the lawsuit and how I made them publicly apologize to me, the Wauwatosa School Board. Lola Holmes says, wasn't it Pennsylvania who had the children going to prison because of some corrupt judge and his connections to private prisons? Why, yes, it was. It was called the Kids for Cash scandal, and it was a huge thing. You can Google it and look it up. But that state has a lot of problems with corruption. Bad Weather Biker, thanks to the $10 super chat, says, you look fabulous today. Well, thank you for that. And speaking of looking fabulous, coming to the program right now, Dr. Joe Corcoran, who we have also labeled here as Dr. Good Hair. How are you?
I'm great. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. You sound
fantastic. I just want to apologize in advance. The gregarious Greek goddess arranged to have our floors redone today. So there's workmen on the second floor. So hopefully using this will keep the background noise to a minimum. And I promise, Megan, I'm not here to yell at you.
Well, if you do want to yell at me, you're invited on Wednesday to do so with everybody else.
Is that Pile on Wednesday?
Yeah, it's Pile on Wednesday.
Love it.
I just figure, anything anybody's got to get off their chest, we might as well get it out of the way on one stream.
I've always believed that you need to deal with a little problem before it becomes a big problem, right?
Yes, well, that's very interesting that you should say that, because that seems to be something that J. Hatch could have done before this all happened, doesn't it?
Yeah. And hey, before we get started, Megan, number one, I just want to say thank you to you and to your audience for some really great coverage, but some even better laughs. I never knew that this whole LawTube genre existed. I didn't realize that there were, tens, hundreds of thousands of people that were following the trial, and I appreciate you and all that you did to, surface the issues. Second of all, with this appearance, I appreciate that, I just want to say it out loud for the audience. You and I both agree that there may be some things that we can't talk about because we sure don't want to do anything to fuel the appeal or anything else. So
Right.
I appreciate you recognizing that some things may be off limits, but super excited to be here and to meet your audience today, Megan. Thanks.
Oh, well, we're so excited too. People have been waiting for this for a long time, and a long time, 3 days. They feel like we all feel like 3 days is a long time at
I
this
will tell you,
point.
there were periods of the trial where half an hour felt like a long time.
Oh, I bet it did.
Yeah.
Well, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you was, I asked my locals chat over at meganfox.locals.com to give me questions that they really wanted to have asked. And one of the first things that came up repeatedly was, you got interrupted while you were telling us how you came in to know this case and be involved in this case. Mr. Hunter wouldn't let you continue that testimony. So I thought that I would, everybody's curious, how did you get involved in the Maya Kowalski case to begin with?
Yeah, Mr. Hunter wouldn't let me finish spelling my name, would he? I think that over on Recovery Addicts, Scott was running an objection counter, and I think that I set the record for 82 objections in my initial testimony. So, yeah, it was actually. I had never met Greg Anderson or Nick Whitney before, and candidly, I had never heard of Maya's story before. And I was having dinner with a very dear friend of mine and his wife. The four of us were out for dinner, and he started telling me about this case that his friend and outside counsel for his company was tackling, and how it had been grinding on for 5 years at that point. But he was, and as he told me about the story, I obviously became interested in it. It's hard not to be sympathetic to the Kowalski's story, and certainly Maya's, but everyone in that family suffered. And we'll talk more about that later. But so as the dinner was winding up, I asked him, send me some information, and overnight he emailed me the New Yorker magazine and USA Today articles about it. And when I read them in the morning, I replied back to him with an email, tell me how I can help. And that led to an introduction to Greg and then Nick. And I actually agreed to be an advisor only in the beginning because it felt like they could use some help understanding how hospitals work. For instance, they were really focusing on the risk management committee when the real focus needed to be on the risk management department. And they're very different organizations. One is a committee that meets every 3 months. One is an organization that's working around the clock every day. And so there were opportunities for me to help them better understand the kind of hidden world of how hospitals work. Over time, the need not opportunity, but the need really arose for me to expand my role into an expert witness, which is something that I'd never done before. So
that brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
You've never been an expert witness in any other case. This was your very first time to be an expert witness.
That's
what
correct.
was that experience like for you? Especially because I really felt like the fact that you'd never done this before was really bothersome to the defense, because they can't come at you with, you're just a hired gun, aren't you? And at some point you were doing it pro bono. You were flying on your own, you were coming back on your own dime, paying for your own hotel. So what was it like for you to be an expert witness, having never done it before? And let me just say, you did a fantastic job. You're one of the best expert witnesses I've ever seen.
Thank you. So yeah, being an expert was never on my list of things to do. For the most part, they're hired to say something specific. And I think you saw that with some of the other expert witnesses that testified in the Maya trial. Say anything if the check is right. And that's one of the reasons why reluctant as I was to step into the role. One of the things that I asked Greg to honor was, I said, I want to do this pro bono because I don't want to be a shill. And quite candidly, there were times leading up to the trial and even times during the trial where I think had I been a paid shill, I probably would have been a little bit more hyperbolic, but Greg allowed me, and Nick allowed me, to really kind of call balls and strikes the way that I saw it. Listen, this story was so tragic and there were so many things that were done outside the lines. You didn't need to embellish it. So the experience was exhausting. I will tell you that since the trial, I've had some friends say, well, hey, how did you celebrate? Honestly, I got a good night's sleep. I slept for almost 8 hours for the first time in months. It's easy to celebrate a big win. I mean, 44-0 on the jury form and $261 million. That is a thorough endorsement that you are on the right side of this. But it's really hard to celebrate a family that's forever broken. And I was in medical school when I lost my dad. And when I talk about that, I always say I lost my dad too early. Well, my goodness, I wasn't an 11-year-old girl. I wasn't a 9-year-old boy. So it's hard to celebrate that, but it does feel good to have helped land this on the right side.
Well, it felt really good to watch you testify. I know that the chat here, I mean, everybody felt that. Everyone really liked you immediately because we felt the sincerity of your testimony, which is what the jury is supposed to do, is weigh the value of the witness testimony. And, the difference between you and witness Anderson, expert Anderson, who clearly just took his little stack of papers from the defense, went over what they wanted him to look at, and never had an ounce of curiosity beyond that. It didn't feel like that's what you were doing. It felt like you had looked at a whole lot more things on your own. So is that something you did on your own? Like, did you research this without plaintiff's counsel and just trying to get to did you just ask them for stuff? Is that how that works?
Yeah, well, keep in mind that I came in at the 11th hour. I met Greg and Nick in March of this year. They filed this suit in 2018. They actually started preparing this suit a year earlier. So they'd been working on this for 5 years plus. And when I say it's all consuming, it was all consuming for those two lawyers and many, many people in that law firm. It was really a very intense experience. That was a lot of on-the-job training, quite candidly. Trying to figure out, I knew the game from watching trials and from watching, the crime shows. You know that the lawyers are going to come after you. You know that the lawyers are the opposing lawyers are going to try to trip you up and spin your words and, to align with what they want. And, part of it kind of became a little bit of there was a little bit of fun to the gamesmanship. So yeah, it was actually, again, I felt good at the end of the day that I maintained my own integrity, that I don't feel that I said anything that I wouldn't stand up and defend every day of the week. So Greg really gave me the opportunity to maintain that integrity. And that was crucially important for me.
Well, speaking of standing up, there was a moment during the trial. I want to play a little clip of an interaction you had with Mr. Hunter and then talk about it. I believe it's right here.
Yes, this was a visit specific to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
I believe there were no.
Every time that he came to give you a document after he was hovering, here's how I saw it happening. We heard the judge say, "Mr. Hunter, you can go back to the podium," because he must have been hovering over you. And then after that moment, every time he came to hand you a document, you stood up to get it from him and even answered questions on your feet. Did you do that like unconsciously, or was this tell me about this moment, because we all talked about this for hours.
Yeah.
we thought it was such a good power move, and I just wondered if you were doing it on purpose, or if you just couldn't help yourself.
Well, so it was not unintentional. If you recall, in my during the plaintiff's case in chief, during that 4-hour direct, on cross, Mr. Hunter approached me twice, and I did not stand up because, quite candidly, I didn't know what the rules were. I didn't know what was in bounds and what was out of bounds. So I had gotten admonished about, don't do that. And so I didn't know what the rules were. I didn't know if I could stand up. So I sat there as he approached. Now, if that was meant to intimidate me, Megan, it didn't work. And
no.
And I will tell you, as an obstetrician who's delivered over 3,000 babies, who has been in small rooms with laboring women, I don't intimidate easily.
Oh my! I can imagine that's a little scarier than being with Hunter.
Well, it's not my joke. I'm just repeating, but the difference between a woman in labor and a terrorist is you can negotiate with a terrorist. I have been
3,000 babies. That's so many babies. That's so awesome.
I will tell you a great story. So let me finish about the standing up. So when, in the first volley, he was clearly going to try to disrupt my train of thought and my testimony. And again, there were 82 objections during that first appearance. It became clear in his cross that last day that he was going to just try to, break things up a different way, and that was closing the gap. And, I just felt that standing up, I would never shake anyone's hand sitting down. So I stood up to greet him as he approced. I respectful, right?
I thought it seemed very respectful. It seemed very polite to me. In fact, I was so like thrown off by it. I asked the chat, I said, do you think this is a power move, or is he just being polite? I can't tell. But either way,
let's go with being polite. Okay, let's just.
But either way, it works so beautifully. It was just
thanks.
great, because you did project a whole lot of professionalism on the stand, and you never, lost your cool or got upset, and it was really something, because they were really trying to shut you up. They were really, they did not want you to talk at all.
You think?
They were so scared. And what do you think? What do you think they were the most scared about? You're not under the rules now of objections. What was the thing they did not want you to say, and were you able to say it?
Well, in the end, it was the opportunity to talk about the environment that was in play from 2015, at least 2015 forward, with all of the problems. They are correct that the self-report was about the Heart Institute's problems.
Right.
But as I said on the stand, when a firefighter is called to your house for a kitchen fire, they're going to look for, has it spread anywhere else? They're going to check in your attic. They're going to look in the garage and see if it wasn't caused by an electrical panel. So the Joint Commission or CMS, they'll come in for that specific problem, but they look everywhere. And Mr. Hunter even asked me to confirm they're very exhaustive and they go everywhere. And I agreed with him. So the self-report was about a specific problem, but what they uncovered there, Megan, were so many problems that dated back to 2015. And as Judge Carroll said, it probably goes back even further to when Dr. Ellen became the CEO and created this, I hesitate to call it a culture, because it was actually the absence of a culture, but the culture that allowed all of these bad actors to really work unfettered. As I said, the structure of accountability was so narrowly siloed that it really was incumbent on everyone to police themselves. I mean, Sally.
Right. That's how it
Sally
seemed.
Smith,
Like there was no
Sally
oversight.
Smith, for sure. Well, Sally Smith and Kathy Beatty testified that together over 15 years, they worked on 300 or 400 cases.
I wish the jury had heard that. I mean, not that we could have gotten a better result, but wasn't that something?
It's hard to imagine, but there's so much that did not make it into the testimony, into the trial. I mean, this group knows more than the jury ever knew. And that's not unusual in trials. But, if they had 20 to 30 cases a year, and that's 400 divided by 15 is about between 20 and 30 cases a year. But they left it all to individual actors to manage, and it was all this team management. It was, the risk management team, the medical team, the social work team. And, at the end of the day, Megan, what that does is, it's kind of like the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. You can go that way, or you can go that way, or you can go that way, right? And so you end up with everybody kind of doing their own thing. What if the hospital instead had a group, an executive group, a meeting, a team, they love teams, that got together once a week and said, let's go through the cases in-house today who are on DCF hold. And I would suggest that if they were to do that, to bring in a board member, every board has members of the community. Every hospital board that I'm aware of has members of the community. What if you had a member of the community who is not a physician, not a nurse, not a caregiver, not an employee of the child protection team or DCF or Suncoast or anything else? What if it was a parent who happened to be serving on the board? Do you think that their naive, their unfettered perspective wouldn't have said, hey, wait a minute, you've been alleging child abuse and the mom is causing these symptoms for 30, 60, 90 days.
days.
Maybe, do we want to rethink this? right? So I think
Yeah.
that having some perspective would probably have saved Beata's life.
Mm. It's so sad. That brings me to another question that I got in my locals chat from Horse Welfare. I want to ask you this one because this one got me. Horse Welfare says, as Maya has testified, there are lies about her cursing at staff in her medical records. Some lies, like the Munchausen by proxy information and misdiagnosis, are harmful to the patient when they try to seek medical care. How can patients access their complete medical records without a subpoena? And because what is released to patients is not the complete medical records. How can patients have blatant lies in their medical records corrected?
Well, and thank goodness, you know, through legislation that's probably now going on 15 years old, facilities are required to provide access to medical records, and where you really want to look are in progress notes, nurses' notes, okay, because that's where you get the free texting. And you know, there has been information that's flat out wrong. There's been charting on patient Corcoran when it's meant to be on patient Fox, right? It doesn't happen often, but it happens. But if any wrong information gets in there, that can follow you unless it gets corrected. But I think it is if especially so many of the folks that have reached out to me in the last couple of days, and thank you to everyone for the enthusiastic support that you have conveyed to me, both through Twitter and through or X, and through this new YouTube channel. So many people who are most impacted by this case are folks with pain syndromes and other diagnoses that are outside of the mainstream, and it's easy to feel marginalized or viewed suspiciously. But you know, I think that reviewing your records and making sure that it's accurate, and if there is anything substantial that needs to be corrected, you go back to the health information management team at the hospital and demand the correction. And it's a process that all hospitals are set up to do, but it takes action on the patient's part, because most of us do not go back and review the records. But I think that's a very wise idea, especially if you think that there's been any miscommunication.
Yeah, that's excellent, good advice. Thank you, doctor. And
Sure.
Mama Ames wants to know, how is your wife's restaurant or restaurants? I think there might be more than one. How are they doing? Tell us about the gregarious Greek goddesses restaurants, because we all want to be invited over for Thanksgiving.
Well, I am so super proud of her sister, our nephew, what they've built. You know, it's interesting. They defied all logic and opened a restaurant in October of the COVID shutdown.
No way! Wow.
Who does that? Right? But you know, my father-in-law. Sorry, I miss that old goat. He was an amazing guy. He used to say he had 3 daughters so that he could handpick his sons. And what I appreciate about George is he never called me his son-in-law. He called me his son. And he passed away in 2019, just before COVID. And he came to the country with nothing and even less of an education, but he taught himself how to work restaurants, and ended up owning a bunch of diners up in Philadelphia, retired to Florida, and then opened up a restaurant in 1990 with my wife, the Triple G. And that was it was a very successful traditional Greek dining restaurant downtown. And so when Pop passed away in 2019, there was a giant hole in the family. And if you met George, you loved him and he loved you. He would walk into the dining room. He was still wearing his apron. He would walk into the dining room and he'd say, Megan, my friend, right? Everybody was family. So, so anyway, they had the opportunity to open this this new venture called the Breakfast Company, and it's really just a big slobbering kiss of a tribute to George. There's so the Greek word for grandfather is papu, and every one of the 3 restaurants has a big community table called Papu's Table. And above Papu's table is a photograph that was taken at my daughter's Sweet 16. And it's George and my mother-in-law, Pauline, and all of their grandchildren. And that's really what it's about, you know, and you know, they're one of the three credos that's on the back of everybody's shirts and it's up on the wall is family first. And so the restaurant is really a tribute to George. Bottom line is that thank you for asking. The restaurants are doing very well. And the family is just excited about how much love and support we get from the community. It's incredible.
Yeah, everybody has been really interested in you and your family and the restaurants and everything else. And, you know, it's great because, you know, we really felt like we got to know a little bit about you while you were on the stand. And not many people, you know, we don't really get that in trials very often. And so I thought that was actually really, really a great thing to do, is just kind of share who you are. And we love that.
And I'll tell you, Megan, there were a lot of comments in some of the chat about why is this going on? Why is this guy just blah 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 about his family and his community and his you know, his friend the boat builder, and that
the yacht father, yeah,
that
boat
was the
daddy.
yacht father. that was not unintentional, because again, Greg is a very 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 smart tactician. He's a great strategist and a master tactician. And he knew I used to have an office less than 2 miles from that courthouse, right? I was a member of that community. I didn't deliver babies there because you had to go to Sarasota for that, but I did a lot of surgeries there. I took care of thousands of patients there. And so he wanted the jury to understand, this is not some gunslinger from Stanford. This is a guy that's in here, you know, part of the community,
right,
talking to members of the community, and he's one of us. And so, you know, did I go into too much detail? Yeah, I'm Irish. I talk a lot, right? But you know, yeah, I think it was important for the jury to understand I'm here with you to have a conversation.
Well, we didn't think it was too much information. The chat wants to know more. Apparently, some of them missed the name of the restaurant and where it is. So why don't you tell them that, so if those who are near it can go visit.
So it's called the Breakfast Company. The first store is in Bradenton on State Road 70, right off of I-75. The second store opened Valentine's Day weekend, and it's down in Sarasota at a center called The Landings. And then the newest store just opened across from the University Town Center, right at University and I-75. Not at UTC, but on the north side, on the Manatee County side. And then they actually have a 7,000 square foot commercial kitchen commissary that is that actually provides meals for the people that work at Tropicana and Bell's, a regional department store. So there's actually 4 locations, but only 3 stores open to the public. Yeah, they've worked super hard. They are, you know, Pop was not an educated man, but he was a very smart man. But more than anything, I've never known anybody who works harder than him. He was a grinder.
Well, the chat also wants to ask you about this clip that the jury did not get to see. So let's watch it together. This is now, is this man the acting Sowers? Wasn't that his name, Kevin Sowers?
Kevin Sowers came down from Baltimore after they fired Dr. Ellen as the CEO. So Kevin worked as the interim CEO, and I have tremendous respect for what he did through the town halls and the messages that he conveyed. You know, as I started to say in my testimony, you know, I always tell my kids, you know, they grew up in the Hannah Montana era, and Hannah Montana had a song called "Everybody Makes Mistakes." And so I, you know, we used to say, "Hey, Dad makes mistakes, Mom everybody makes mistakes. But what do you do if you make a mistake? I'm sorry, I did it. How do I make it right?" And Kevin Sowers came down in December of 2018 and seemed to follow that. And so I'm a little disappointed with the tack that he takes here. And Alicia Schultoff is the CEO of the hospital today. And she was actually the chief operating officer at Brandon Regional Hospital just after I left. So we never had a chance to work together, but our offices were about 30 feet apart.
Wow. Well, we're going to play a little bit of this so you can comment on this.
Sure.
As you may know, we are defending ourselves in a trial regarding care we provided to a patient in 2016. We anticipate that the jury will begin deliberating in the coming days. We don't really know how long they will deliberate, but you may hear the verdict before we're able to communicate with you directly. Please know that given the nature of this case, any decision will be complex and will take time for us to fully analyze. As a nurse, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've seen a lot in my career. And I want you to know that I have never been more confident of anything, more confident that the care we provided to this patient was exceptional, compassionate, lawful, and life-saving.
This case has attracted substantial attention in the media, and much of it has been wrong. What has been made clear in court is that our team of providers did something both heroic and yet for us commonplace.
Heroic, commonplace, exceptional, life-saving. These are the this really kind of, it got me, Joe. It got me. What are your thoughts here? I mean, this is not saying we're sorry. We recognize we did something, right, and we're sorry, and we need to do better. This is, we didn't do anything wrong.
You know, and unfortunately, Megan, that's really been the theme for the defense all along, not just during the trial, even long before. You know, they painted so many things in the absolutism of always and never. I never wore a lab coat, said Sally Smith. We always introduced ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And let's face it, that's a tough standard to meet. You know, I think that, and for them to come out after all of the testimony that had been provided to that point, and to say, not only we did nothing wrong, but we were heroic in the way that we did it, I think came off as tone deaf. And that may be the kindest way that I can describe it. You know, I think they missed an opportunity. And listen, I will be the first to admit, there are the overwhelming majority of nurses and social workers and respiratory therapists, the people who work at Johns Hopkins overwhelmingly are good people who get out of bed in the morning to do good work. The environment, and Mr. Sowers, Dr. Sowers referenced it in his town hall, the environment actively squashed anyone from saying anything about the emperor's new clothes. There was an active culture of Sorry about the dog barking. By
No,
the
they
way,
love
Cheesy.
dogs. They love dogs. No,
But-
the chat wants to see the dog now. Now
Oh,
you're in
goodness.
trouble because they know
All
you
right,
have
come here,
one.
come here,
So
come here. This is
Puppers.
Charlie. This
Oh,
is Charlie,
hello,
our rescue
Charlie.
dog. Yeah,
Aw.
he's our 8-year-old rescue, and he was an emotional support animal for my son after he had 3 concussions in 18 months.
Oh my
And
lord.
so so he doesn't play contact sports any longer. But anyway, as I was saying, Dr. Sowers acknowledged that the environment was, there was active retaliation and retribution if you spoke up, and that puts patients at danger, right? And so I was really disappointed. I was very disappointed in the content. I was in the moment, I was very disappointed that Judge Carroll did not allow that in. But quite candidly, Megan, I think that it would have infuriated the jury. I think that they would have come back with a $500 million punitive
Yeah,
damages.
I think so
and
too.
and that would have been undefensible. It would have been an automatic. It would have been reduced on appeal.
Sure.
And I think that 50 million. I think with what they came up with is very defensible, very reasonable, and I think that it showed that they wanted to send a message, but they didn't want to put shush. But they didn't want to put the hospital at risk. So he's barking because I've got a
floor
gentleman
guys?
here who's trying to get rid of it. No, this is actually the guy who's trying to get the mosquitoes to go away.
Oh, so it's just commonplace. We're used to it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Charlie's okay. He's welcome to be interviewed as well.
He's a great. Thanks. He's
he
a good
may
doggy.
have some thoughts about Jay Hatch and the 7th floor coven. You never know. Even Elsie Merritt says even the dog has good hair.
Hey, I do appreciate the nickname Dr. Good Hair. That's pretty funny. And listen, I also just want to point out, I've been wearing my hair the same way for forever, for literally 30 or 35 years. So I don't spend a lot of time on my hair. And in fact, I just use, I don't even know what this stuff is, but it's some kind of paste. And literally, this is how much I use. That's it. The only place I use anything, my hair will go like that otherwise. So
you need to put this on your YouTube channel. You need to.
Well, you asked, you said we got to talk about.
We got to talk about your hair routine. I mean, you just get out of the shower and just put a little of that in there. There's no blow drying or.
No, well, when I get out of the pool or get out of the get back on the boat, I literally just push my hair back and it ends up like this about 15 minutes later. So I'm very
fortunate. You had a boat. I could feel it. I knew it.
Florida, for God's sake, you need a boat.
The chat and I were I'm like, this guy has a boat. I feel it. I think we said yacht. I'm sure it's not a yacht, but
it's a boat. It's not a yacht. It's a boat. I would love a yacht if anybody is offering. But...
Well, the yacht father appears to know all about that. You can ask him. Yeah. You can ask Boat Daddy. Yeah. I'm sure he has some for you.
Yeah, they come with gigantic price tags, but yeah.
Well, getting back to the serious issues at hand, have you ever actually seen the IJ report? No. You still haven't seen it.
Still was never produced. We got a lot of material that referenced it, but no, we never.
How did the judge allow that? He was so serious about how if it has even an iota, if there's any odor of anything related to the IJ, I want it. And then they don't give it to him. How did he not lose his mind and throw Hunter and Shapiro in jail immediately?
Yeah, because number one, we were beyond the 11th hour of the trial, right? I mean, evidence had been closed and then it was reopened. Ugh. Number two, we had enough to where we could make our point to the jury, right? Things were not rosy. Things were not hunky-dory at the hospital. They did get re-credentialed, and candidly, I'm not sure how, but they got re-credentialed. The interesting thing is that there were around the IJ, the immediate jeopardy, and again, that is as severe a threat to a hospital as you can get. The only thing worse is they literally say, we're taking your hospital over today, right? So the normal course of an IJ, and immediate jeopardy is only administered in about 5% of all surveys at most, right? Typically what happens, Megan, is that the survey team discovers a problem and they literally just say, stop, this survey is over. You have to fix this before we leave, okay? And so you have to physically hand them a plan of correction that addresses the problem right now. So, and again, the survey is suspended. The survey is over. So then within 10 days, you have to have a multi-page, multi-detail, I mean, very specific plan for correction. And then within 23 days from the IJ being cited, you have to have executed that plan, okay? So in this situation, and this is why I would still love to see the actual documentation so I can put it together.
Oh, they've shredded that.
Very, very, very unusual.
There's no, the shredders are working overtime over there.
So they had a survey January 7th through January 11th. They don't issue a report for 3 weeks until January 31st. And on January 31st, they said, hey, not only did we find an IJ, but that immediate jeopardy goes back to September 20th, 4 months earlier, almost 5.
That doesn't sound like keeping up with what the protocol is, does it?
Well, it can happen.
But how?
But, you know, yeah.
The question is how?
It's unusual. There were so many odd things that contributed to the immediate jeopardy. You know, there was an acknowledgement by both Dr. Sowers and by the head of risk management that there was no data to be assessed around quality assurance and performance improvement for 15 months. There's 15 months where they're in the ether. There's nothing there. How does that happen? I mean, did everybody just go on PTO for 15 months?
Well, this is why I really think that this situation needs a state investigation. I actually think law enforcement needs to get involved because they're still hiding things. Well, wouldn't the state of Florida, or at least the medical board, the medical licensing board, want to know what in the actual heck happened here and why? Now that there's been this judgment, like maybe not before, okay, but now that there's been this judgment, now that the people of Florida have decided that this hospital was negligent, involved in, false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress that led to suicide, these are very serious things. So maybe it's time for the state to get involved and really take a deeper look at this. I don't know. That's what I would want to do. Yeah. I do have another question for you about. Go ahead.
Let me just. And I don't know what the state will decide. Obviously, I'm not advocating for any action. I'm.
I am.
I'm
gonna call the governor's office myself.
I thought it was interesting that Jules, who was in the courtroom every day. She actually sat next to somebody from the Joint Commission on I believe 2 of the days of testimony. So there may be people who agree with you.
Well, now that's really interesting. So, that's good. I'm glad someone from the Joint Commission was there witnessing it, because there was definitely something going on that they still didn't want known. And listening to Mr. Hunter call it this Dracula that was buried years ago. What did you think about that? We thought we buried this Dracula years ago. I couldn't believe he said that out loud.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of the several unforced errors that took place by the defense team. I think that was a very poor choice of metaphor. Metaphor or analogy, I can't remember which. But
you think? Yeah, I think so too.
I think you'd like to do that one over.
So the thing we do here on YouTube is we do get to super chat. We have to answer some super chats.
Sure.
And Nicholas Starro has sent one that says, just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Corcoran. Nicholas has a trial watch channel where he watches trials as well. He's a terrific, he's in Sweden.
Oh, he wore the zombie mask.
Yes,
Yeah. Hello, Nicholas. Thank you. Thank you.
And everybody has wanted to say thank you to you. Verge says, Dr. Joe, I joined your YouTube channel. Thanks for all you did. For Maya, make sure you guys find him on YouTube. I've put the link in the chat, and I will also add the link to the description of this video. I forgot to do that before I set it up. So make sure you go over there and subscribe. He's also on Twitter or X, whatever. I don't know. And you can find him there as well. What's your Twitter handle again?
It's at cmo.drjoe. cmo.drjoe.
Got it. Okay. Lat Callgirl says, first time expert was unshaken and amazing. Yeah, I was shocked when I found out you had never been an expert witness. I thought, wow, that's incredible. Midnight Muse wants to know, does he know how much we love his hair yet?
Even the Triple G calls me Dr. Good Hair now.
This could not be better. Seriously, that's so funny.
And I do have to call out props to, I believe that it's Femme Natal.
Yeah.
For my favorite screenshot is her quote on the super chat. I'm crushing on this guy. Love his 0 F's given attitude.
I remember that.
Love it.
I remember that. Well, we did. We all loved that about you. Yeah, nobody could believe you were a first-time witness. First-time expert witness. You were so good.
It was probably a good thing that I'd never done it before, because I don't know that I would have done it a second time.
Everybody, the words that people use to describe you are so similar: genuine, truthful, so yeah, everyone liked you immediately when you were on the stand. The prosecution became very afraid to let you speak. It's never fun for them to have a witness as likable as you were. Jennifer Oak Talks, thanks for the super chat, says, when someone cares about the patients and not his pocket, changes are made for the greater good.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, we hope to see more of that at hospitals everywhere. MD, thanks for the super chat, says, on behalf of all CRPS patients, thank you, Dr. C.
You are very welcome.
E. Poindexter says he's the Dr. Muffins of this case. It's
Dr.
true.
Muffins.
Dr. Muffins is the nickname that we gave the expert witness in the Johnny Depp case who testified on Johnny's side. She was the psychologist who tore apart Amber Heard's case bit by bit. And we called her Dr. Muffins because there was a whole stupid exchange where the defense attorney was screeching about muffins. Her husband had brought muffins into it was dumb. Anyway, she became Dr. Muffins. E. Poindexter continues, super competent in testimony.
I know that I showed this to you already, Megan, but I'll share this with the team. But that's what the cinnamon rolls look like at Patty's restaurant. So that's what my bride makes. She's the baker. So I promise you, Dr. Muffins will serve you muffins when you get to the breakfast company.
That's so good. And American Dreamer, thanks for the $5. I also have some, oh boy, there's more down here. Nicholas is back. In 30 years, I have sat in 5 risk safety pillars in heavy industry. If we produced Jack Sharp for just 1 month, we would be replaced. Jennifer D says, I love to hear Dr. C's thoughts on CPS being privatized.
Oh. You know, that will be a topic that we'll discuss when we have a lot more time. You know, I do think that there's some misaligned incentives here. And there's not enough of an off-ramp. Like I said, there's not enough oversight. Once you're in the system, you've got no rights, and you've got very little recourse other than to capitulate. And you know, again, despite what the lawyers said, you never get it right 100.00% of the time. And you know, my biggest disappointment in in their management of the case was that there's been, at the time, there was no navel gazing. There was no consideration, hey, did we get this right? And what was even more bothersome is that after they learned that Beata left us, there still was no self-examination. No, gosh, what could we have done better? Right?
So cold. I couldn't even believe that they had not brought it to risk management. Well,
yeah.
It's okay. Charlie knows there's a threat. There's a man with a bug sprayer going around your house.
That's my friend Justin. He's amazing. He works so hard. He is truly the hardest working guy I know.
Duncan, Idaho, thanks for gifting 10 memberships. That's awesome. Laura M wants to know, are you Mr. Rogers reincarnated?
I did almost wear a cardigan today, but I
decided. Let's see. That's a shame. Says, question for Dr. C. Is background and practice common among admin? It's perfect for an expert witness. P.S. I'm listening in bed with my 5th concussion in 5 years right now.
Oh no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I agree with your moniker. That's a shame. I'm very sorry to hear about that concussion.
Yeah.
So as a chief medical officer, most of the physicians who go into that role have actually practiced medicine. Some will do a residency and go right into what we refer to as administrative medicine. I delivered babies and did hysterectomies and for about 20 years before I had an injury and couldn't go back to that. But I had young kids at home, so I couldn't sit on the couch and feel sorry for myself. So I had to reinvent myself once I got better. And I honestly, Megan, I feel so blessed that I have found not one but 2 very impactful ways of making a difference as Dr. Corcoran. And who knows, now maybe 3. Yeah, so I feel that having actual patient care experience was always a plus when I was looking at candidates to become chief medical officers in my hospitals.
And Marker says, I've been involved in CMS reviews. Seeing the 2019 review, it was so obvious the IJ was issued in 2018 and went back at least 2 years. So,
well, thank you, Marker. I'm happy to have somebody agree with me.
Yeah. Well, I also think that we're really looking forward to what you're about to do going forward, because there is definitely a need. Lula kind of brings it up here. I love the way that Dr. Joe is jumping into our community, hearing from people that are involved in the cases we get so invested in means so much.
Yeah.
And this case brought out some really severe issues that people are concerned about, like informed consent. Informed consent.
Oh my goodness.
Let's talk about that for the last 3 minutes that you have here.
Yeah. So if I candidly, this shocked me when I looked at it. And I was present when Greg and Nick did the deposition with Dr. Perno, who, when Maya was admitted to the hospital, he was the chief of staff working in the emergency room. Before she was discharged, he took over a role that sounded like the VP of Medical Affairs, and I believe today he still is the VP of Medical Affairs at the hospital.
We're talking about Dr. Perno?
Dr. Perno, yeah.
This guy.
Puffy-cheeked, that guy, yeah. I knew you were going to pull that picture up. That's your favorite.
I'm sorry,
meme,
I had to.
Yeah, but he, when he said that, hey, once you sign that consent, we've got permission to do what we feel is in your best medical interest, and
including stripping you.
And it kind of, because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, right? But when I actually went back and looked at the consent, which was 4 pages, the actual consent to treat was 8 lines of text, 8 lines of text on a 4-page document. Everything else was lawyerese, right? But it was 8 lines of text. 2 of those 8 lines were specifically about HIV testing and how you have the right to refuse it. So really, the informed consent to treat was 6 lines of text. That's it. And the carte blanche that Dr. Perno felt that conveyed to him and his colleagues was shocking to me. I mean, how many of us have ever read the consent to treat when you are in the emergency room, or heaven forbid, your child is in the emergency room, and your signature on that form is what stands between you and your doctor, or the doctor and your child? Nobody. The only people who read informed consent are the lawyers who wrote it and the lawyers who now are going to litigate against it, right? It was shocking to me. Shocking.
Yeah, I think ever since the pandemic, we have been really woken up to the fact that informed consent is something that maybe the medical community doesn't really believe, because we were told we didn't have the right to refuse many things. And I want that to change. I think that's something that really needs to change going forward.
So Megan, I would ask you to words matter, right? They matter to me for sure. You know, I used to give a lecture to medical staffs, and I said, you know, think about how words matter. Think about how your kids are fighting, you break them up. All right, apologize. What do they do? Sorry. Well, that works when you're 6 and 8. Try that with your spouse or your partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the words you use matter. And what I would ask you to do is be careful about what you just said, because again, I don't want to say that medicine or doctors or nurses don't believe in informed consent. There's always that 80-20, and in this case, it's probably more like 80-15-5 rule. It's a small percentage of the folks who wake up in the morning and have caregiver roles. It's that small percentage that think maybe the rules don't apply to me the way they apply to everybody else, right? So please don't use too broad of a brush, because I will tell you, I consider it a blessing to have been in healthcare for my entire adult career, because you get to work with people who are truly value driven and truly want to help. Yeah, there's bad actors out there for sure. And, you know, listen, you got to sniff them out.
Well, maybe it's that the prevailing wisdom, though, tends to overpower the ability of doctors who maybe don't agree to really say anything about it, to stand up for it. I think during the pandemic, we just saw so much of everybody has to do the same thing, and everyone must do this and you must do that, and you weren't allowed to say no. And I just think, whether they agreed with it or not, I was disappointed that there weren't enough people, or weren't people in the medical community standing up to say, no, I think my patient has a right to decide whether or not they want this. Instead, we had, here in New York anyway, we had doctors kicking patients out of their practices because they refused to take a government, created vaccine. And I don't understand that. I don't understand where, and maybe it was different in other states, but I'm in New York, so it might have been a little more prevalent here.
Yeah, a lot of trust and a lot of credibility was lost. And Megan, you know that anytime you lose trust, it's a lot longer road to regain it than it is to lose it. So
yeah,
I think we've got a lot of hard work ahead.
Well, speaking of that, why don't you tell the chat before you go here what you're going to be doing coming up, and where they can find you, and how they can reach you to send questions, because I know you want to hear from them.
Yeah. So, again, I never imagined that I would have a YouTube channel. My daughter, who's in college, she said, "Dad, you're an influencer." So
yeah, that's true.
Not what I thought I would be when I grow up, but I hope that, through this experience, and since the verdict came out in particular, I've heard from so many people about, hey, I want to hear more. I want to talk to you. And so with Megan's encouragement and others, I started this YouTube channel, and it's at CMO Dr. Joe, CMO DRJOE, is the YouTube channel. There's no content on there. There's just a coming soon, and hey, I'm going to be talking with Megan tomorrow. That's all that's there. But amazingly, 3,000 people have already subscribed, and the number keeps climbing. And I'm really touched by that show of support. And then I've always been on Twitter X as a consumer, but you know, you all are giving me an opportunity to be a producer now, but what I'm really looking for in these early days, quite candidly, is the audience to give me input. What is important? What do I know that I can share with you that would help you? So, you know, I started these with really not understanding what the content will be. And I think it will evolve across the next, you know, months and years. And I hope that it's the start of a conversation that, you know, I heard loud and clear from you during the trial, after the trial, that, hey, I like to hear what you said and I'd like to hear more. So let's start that conversation. I will also tell you, I have a Gmail account right now, cmo.drjoe@gmail.com. If you've got ideas, feel free to reach me through the email as well.
And I'll put that in the chat as well. cmo.drjoe.
Right, drjoe.
gmail.com, and I'll put that in the chat as well, so you guys have that if you want to reach out to Dr. Joe Corcoran with any of your questions. I'm really looking forward to what you're going to do, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And please send Triple G our regards. My last question is,
and Charlie too.
And Charlie, and my last question is, have you seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Is this a favorite in your house?
All three. I will tell you God's honest truth. So it really is very much, I was the first American boy that my wife was allowed to date. And
oh my goodness.
the only reason why she was allowed to date this Ixeni is because I did surgery on her mom 6 years earlier, but I never saw Patty.
Wow.
Yeah, and I delivered. I was the obstetrician for Patty as a twin, and so when Patty's twin was pregnant, I was an obstetrician who took care of her during the pregnancy. I did surgery on Patty's little sister. I did surgery on several of the women in the family. So let's just say the first Thanksgiving dinner was a little awkward, but yeah, it was very much like My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And I'm from a big Irish Catholic family. There's 7 of us, and you know, we tend to be a little bit more, you know, we're loud in our own way, but not Greek loud. So there was definitely a clash of cultures, but thank God, you know, 25 years later, it's an amazing blend.
Oh, we're so happy. We're so happy that you came, and we're so happy to have gotten to know you. I hope to have you back sometime.
I'd enjoy that.
When you get going, and I'm sure there will be more things to talk about. Thank you so much for being here, Joe.
It's great to meet everybody today. Thanks for having me.
All right. See you later. All right, everybody. That was Dr. Joe Corcoran. What a fun interview that was. And thank you so much for being here and for all your questions. And Rumble, I need to get to you. I know you've sent me a few Rumble rants here, but they did not have questions for Dr. Joe Corcoran, so I waited. So we have Rush. Says, time for the medium pores to rise. Awesome news about Rumble. Great job on the coverage. Thank you so much for that, Rush. And we have, let's see. Boy, I hate it when Rumble puts them in red. I can't read that. I think it says, oh, hold on. In Trouble is now a monthly supporter on Rumble. I have to take my glasses off and get close. And In Trouble also sent a Rumble rant without a message. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And those of you over on Locals, I do have my local screen open. If you guys were wondering why I kept looking over to the left, I was trying to keep up with I'm trying to keep up with 3 chats at the same time. I've got one over here, a couple over here. Locals is saying, oh my God, he's doing his homework on us. He did his homework on us. And the chat They're very excited that he knows about our channel. Yeah. Let me get to some of your comments. Let's see. My sister says, wait, where am I at? I missed it. Dr. C, Emily says, Dr. C, discussing a serious matter. Us in the chat, give us the dog. Christy says, who else wants a house tour? Totally. My sister Stephanie is in the chat. She says, let's do a trip and go to that restaurant. Absolutely. We need to go. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Florida in the winter? Why not? It's better than here. Black Beauty says, this man is a beautiful human being, and I don't just mean his looks. You guys are funny. American Dreamer, I don't remember if I got this one yet, but she says, thanks, Megan. Thanks, Dr. Corcoran. Duncan, Idaho, $10 super chat says, catching up, but wanted to say to chat regarding this interview and consider the unique voice and experience in which Megan brings to issues like this. We need to support this woman. She is important. Well, thank you, Duncan. I appreciate that. And all of you do support me all the time, and I really appreciate that. And we have a lot of fun here. Hey, Joe, thanks for the super chat. Says, thank you, Megan and Dr. Joe, for this great interview. It was a good time, and it was wonderful of him to be here. Cheesy says, I'm just so excited that Triple G calls him Dr. Goodhair. And if you're wondering who Triple G is, that would be Patty, Dr. Corcoran's wife. We started calling her the gregarious Greek goddess here. I'm not sure why. I just said that, and it stuck. So we call her, now he's calling her Triple G. Hello, Patty. I'm so glad that we've gotten to know a little bit about you and your amazing restaurants. It sounds like you've got something really good going on there. All right. So we know that Dr. Corcoran is going to be on tomorrow with Melanie, who has a channel. She's a lawyer. I've seen her channel. I just have not watched it. I know she covered this trial. He's going to be on with her tomorrow, and then he's going to be on with Rob at Lawn Lumber in the evening, so that those should both be good interviews, and I'm looking forward to those as well. All right, let me see if I can get caught up on some of your other chats. It's been amazing having so many of you in the chat today. Oh wow, I'm so far behind. Oh, Melanie Little. Yes, that's her name, Melanie Little. Not party loyalist says, glad the good doctor is a bro to you and us, maybe, and not a hoe. Thanks, Megan. Bet they don't get good hair tips on their streams. I bet they don't. How much you want to bet he's going to bring the pomade out on those streams? Probably not. All right. Well, this has been a really fun show, and I appreciate you guys. And just to tell you a little bit about what's coming up, I'm going to be talking to, on Wednesday, we have a 20,000 subscriber celebration stream. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? It's really a lot of fun here. And on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. till Nick, we are going to be hanging out with my friends. They're doing a roast, and they're roasting me. It's apparently the fun thing to do. If you're angry at me and you have something to say, Wednesday night is the night to do it. Because I'm inviting all screaming for no reason. I'm inviting all belittling, all dismissal of my ideas and beliefs, and even, any of it, just whatever. On Wednesday night at 10 p.m., we're going to be going with, I'll have Nick Rekieta here, and Good Logic, Legal Vices, and many others. I am sending out the invitations today. I already have a few coming. And then at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I'll be headed over to Nick Rekieta's stream with Robert Barnes, because we're going to get into the details of the Wauwatosa lawsuit and how that worked out. I sued the Wauwatosa School Board a year ago for cutting off my First Amendment right to speak. And they settled, and I got all my attorney's fees paid and a letter of apology, and it'll be fun. It's going to be really fun to talk to Nick Rekieta and Robert Barnes about that. And nobody else. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Tell your dad about Dr. Goodhair. Well, if I told my dad about Dr. Goodhair, he would just tell me to shut up about hair because nobody cares. Nobody cares. All right, so set your alarms. Set your alarms for Wednesday at 10 p.m. because that's going to be a lot of fun. We did hit 20,000 subscribers here. 30,000 is the next goal. So if you like this channel, please do hit that subscribe and don't forget to hit the like button. And I think I have some articles that I need to get to today, so I'm going to call it a day. And I appreciate you guys being here. This was a really fun. It was a really fun interview and a fun surprise. You know, it's not often that we get to interview somebody we've really talked about during these trials, like Dr. Muffins or Dr. Goodhair. And it's really great that he was a good sport and to come and talk to us. And he's going to be making the rounds, and that's going to be fun. So what else do I have to tell you? I'm not sure if I have anything else going on now. Well, you know what? Since this might be one of the, well, it's not going to be the last Maya stream, but we might as well go over some of our favorite memes from this trial. I know some of you were saying that Dumpster Jesus was your favorite one. No cake or Jesus for sick kids at Johns Hopkins, all prisoners hospital. That was a good one. And let's not forget, Your Honor, we need permission to bring in the duck for the 7th floor coven witches. We need to weigh them against a duck. There were so many good ones. The locals chat was very busy making the memes, and we had such fun with the Munchie Bunch and all the rest. This one's a fun one. John Shopkins, kitty nappers. And who could forget Dr. Corcoran on the stand blowing the defense to hell. It was really, truly wonderful, and it's been a really great trial. Hey, why don't you guys let me know if there's any other trials recently that you're looking, that you want to watch. I actually started watching the Eye Drops channel this morning because they had closing arguments, and it hadn't started yet. So I went back and I realized that the judge is the same judge as the Darrell Brooks judge. And she's so pretty. The cameras in the courtroom have no problem focusing on her. Maybe Judge Carroll just needs to get more handsome so that he just needs to get rid of Hair Island, and maybe the camera will focus in on him. But boy, that camera loves that judge. I forget her name now. Judge, it starts with a D. But anyway, so she's doing that trial. I don't know. Should we go back and do a little recap of that trial, or Jennifer Doro? Thank you. Or is there a trial that's going to start up soon that you guys would like me to carry? It's the slow season at the restaurant right now, so I'm going to have more time until the season picks up again in the spring and summer. But why don't you guys think about the trials that you would like to see? Do you want to see a live one, or should we go back and do the Eye Drops trial? It looks pretty interesting. I started watching day one, and the very first thing was a juror almost got kicked off of the jury. So who knows? It might be really interesting. Computer build stream. Yes, that's definitely going to happen. Okay, so apparently Give Send Go is going to release the computer funds that you guys donated to the stream in about 4 hours. And once they do that, I'm going to order my new computer, and I'm going to call IT Goatee Brad, and we're going to set up a computer build stream. Yes, because, or a setup, I guess. We're not building it, we're setting it up. So that I will no longer have computer issues. I'm limping along right now on my daughter's computer because my computer is just, my Mac is not cutting it, just not cutting it. Okay, Sue says it wasn't good. It got so boring. Broken Baker left it and went to another trial. Really? The Eye Drops trial was boring, huh? All right. Well, maybe we should, why don't you guys, I'm going to start looking around because I'm always interested in covering another trial. I am definitely going to be paying attention to the next case against J Hatch, which Greg Anderson and Nick Whitney are bringing. They're going to be bringing, or they have brought a lawsuit against Johns Hopkins for, the same stuff. Dr. Sally Smith and Kathy Beatty have done this to the Kirchner family. And we are going to be watching that as well. I don't know if there's going to be cameras, or I don't even know if it's going to get to trial yet, but I'm certainly keeping an eye on the docket, and I'm keeping an eye on that trial. I'm going to try and reach out to the attorneys after the, I'm sure that they're really swamped right now with requests, but I will try to get Nick Whitney or Greg Anderson to talk about that trial. I would really like to know about that upcoming trial, if it's going to be happening, and when that's going to be, so that we can cover that here. Yeah, I heard that the Delphi murders was getting nuts. I heard about that, but I don't know. Maybe I should. Has it started yet? Delphi trial has started yet, or no? I think they're still in preliminary hearings and stuff, but yeah, that might be a great one to cover. Everybody keeps talking about Sarah Boone. I don't know this story. Who is Sarah Boone? I think Recovery Addict is covering Sarah Boone, but I don't know who Sarah Boone is. What's with all the no's in the chat? What do you knowing to? What do you know? Oh God, which one won't start till the end of the? Delphi. Okay, all right, understood. Well, I'm going to. If you guys are on Locals, meganfox.locals.com, make sure you're following me over there, even if you're not going to subscribe, because it's free to follow me. You'll get all the notifications for when I'm going to be live, so that you know. After this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a Locals only stream after this, because I have a ton of laundry to do, and we're going to watch something together. So I was watching this interesting documentary last night about a bunch of people who were scammed into paying lots of money to find their twin flame. It's on Netflix. I forget what it's called now, probably Twin Flames. I don't know. It's something like that. Anyway, we're going to watch an episode or two of that while I do some laundry. And that's going to be directly after this. Just give me about 15 minutes. And I'm going to, it's meganfox.locals.com. Use promo code Maya for a discount. You'll get a free month of hilarity over there. And by the way, I found my Bastion bolt action pen. I'm so excited. If you go to bastionboltactionpen.com and use promo code MEG20, you get a discount on this beautiful, heavy. They come in all different colors: silver, gold, pink, blue, and it's got this really fun thing to fidget with. It's the bolt action pen, and man, does it write well. I love how smooth it is. And for me, I'm a writer. I take notes. You guys saw me with my notebook here. I type too, but most of the time I start out writing by hand, and I like to write with something good. I like to write with a weighty pen. I don't like the cheap pens. This one, and it's not even that expensive. These make great Christmas gifts. They come in beautiful boxes. These are wonderful pens. So go over to bastionboltactionpen.com, promo code MEG20. You'll get a 20% off discount. Great time to start ordering them for Christmas. I love this pen. I'm so excited. I found it in the bottom of one of my purses. So I'm excited to have it again. I'm so happy to have it. I missed it. It's been missing for months. I told you I was going to lose it when they sent it to me. I was like, damn it. I know I'm going to lose this thing. Yeah, I love a heavy pen too. It just feels weighty in your hand, and I just love it. So anyway, what I was saying about Locals was, get over to Locals, and I'll start a poll over there, or I'll open a post over there where you guys can tell me what trials that you think we should cover next. Which one should we be looking at? Spatha, do I get a kickback? Yes, they do pay me for my sales of Bastion bolt action pens. All right, let's see. Yeah, it comes in purple. Yep. Wait, you tried the code where? At Bastion? Well, I can contact them and see if they changed it. I'll find out. If it's not working, I'll try and find out. But they're great pens. Whether or not I get a kickback, they're good pens. Has Megan heard Joe rant? She's in for a ride on Wednesday if he's there. Of course I've heard Joe rant. I've been on Good Logic's program several times, and I've been on streams with him. I can't wait for him to scream at me. It's going to be great. It's going to be terrific. I can't wait. All right. All right. So if you are not a subscriber, get over on meganfox.locals.com. promo code Maya, and that's all caps, by the way. If you're having trouble with the promo code, it's all caps. That could be the problem. So get over there, and I will see you in a little bit. We're gonna watch TV together while I do laundry. We'll have a laundry stream. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Until I'll see you then. And everybody, don't forget, hit that like button and subscribe on your way out. See ya.
Lost, my world is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. Oh, and my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. Say goodbye. No, I don't wanna No, I don't wanna say goodbye. This time I know my road is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. And my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say.
Johnny's problem is he should come storming in there with a string of garlic and some holy water.
And a cross, a crucifix.
May the power of Christ compel you.
No, I don't.
You realized his house was infested with succubuses.
Of what? Yes.
Succuloters.
I don't remember saying it now. So
no wonder he said drown her before you burn her.
Oh my God.
Your next witness?
Now I know why you wanted to drown her.
Lasis.
Next witness lives in Romania. Is that correct?
That